So today I'm going to share with you some speechwriter secrets, because I don't know whether you know this, but there is a secret language of leadership. A secret language of leadership that we all used to be taught at school, ancient rhetoric. This was a core part of the curriculum in ancient Rome, part of the trivium. In London, right the way through to the 19th century, it was possible to get a free education in rhetoric, but not in mathematics, reflecting the importance that was placed on the topic. Today, teaching in rhetoric is restricted to a powerful, privileged few. So what I'm going to do in my speech is revive this ancient art of rhetoric and share with you 6 techniques so that you can all speak like leaders. So, right, okay, stop. Right, stop, listen, look left, look right, look center. How are you feeling? Distressed? Anxious, a little bit edgy? That's because I'm mimicking hyperventilating. And so this is the authentic sound of fear, and that fear transfers to you. This is an ancient Roman rhetorical device. They used to call it a syndeton, but it's one that leaders still use today. So David Cameron uses it. Broken homes, failing schools, sinker states. Tony Blair used to use it as well. Education, education, education. Barack Obama too. A world at war, a planet in peril. The worst financial crisis in a generation. Why 3? Well, 3 is the magic number in rhetoric. Government of the people, by the people, for the people. Ein Volk, ein Reich, ein Führer. This is also an ancient Roman rhetorical device. They used to call it TRICOLON, which makes it sound like a peculiar part of the digestive system, but it's just put things in 3s. You put your arguments in 3s, it makes it sound more compelling, more convincing, more credible, just like that. And so we find the rule of 3 here, there, and everywhere. 3 sentences in which the opening clause is repeated. Now, this is what Winston Churchill did with his, "We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall fight on the fields and in the streets." Of course, he could have said this a whole lot quicker, but he wanted to communicate his emotion, so he repeated it. When we're emotional about things, our perspective distorts, and this then manifests in our speech, and so this is the authentic sound of passion. It sweeps people away, and this is why this is a technique which is used by slick salesmen and by market traders. I'm not asking £20, I'm not asking £15, I'm not even asking £10. It sweeps people on to the next point, which is 3 balancing statements. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. There's nothing wrong with America that can't be cured by what's right with America. To be or not to be. If the sentence sounds as if it's balanced, we imagine that the underlying thinking is balanced, and our brain is tuned to like things that are balanced. Balanced minds, balanced diets, balanced lives. And so we're drawn to these kinds of sentences, we're attracted to them, even if that balance is actually just an illusion. Like we're looking to the future, not the past. We're working together, not against one another. We're thinking about what we can do, not what we can't. Now let's move on to number 4, metaphor. Metaphor is probably the most powerful piece of political communication, but it's the bit no one ever talks about, the elephant in the room, so to speak, which is extraordinary because we use metaphor once every 16 words on average. So our conversation is littered with metaphors, scattered with metaphors. We can't speak for very long without reaching for a metaphor, and metaphors are very loaded. So you see, metaphors are all over the place, and they are political in that they are used by people to lead people towards things or indeed to make them recoil. And so we use beautiful images, images of people, images of love, images of family, of sunshine, in order to draw people towards things, and we use disgusting images, vermin, scary monsters, disease, sickness, in order to make people recoil. And they're all lies, and they're never challenged. And yet they have an enormous impact on the way that people behave and respond. There's been research showing that changing nothing more than the metaphor in a piece of text can lead to fundamentally different reactions from people on questions raising from whether or not they'll invest in a company, whether or not they will back particular crime policies, to even whether or not they'll support a foreign war. And so this is really, really important stuff. And it's all around us. The financial storm for the financial crisis. Was the financial crisis really an act of nature, as the storm metaphor suggests? So it was nothing to do with greedy bankers or timid politicians or ineffective regulators. The storm plants a phony image in our minds that this is something that just swept in naturally and equally will just sweep away with no need for action on our part. It's a big lie. So let's move on to number 5. Exaggeration. When we're emotional, our perspective distorts, this manifests in our speech, and people who are emotional about something will therefore go over the top. So my God, I've been waiting to give this talk my whole life. I didn't sleep at all last night, and I am going to give my heart and soul to you. Okay? These are all exaggerative statements. Leaders do this kind of stuff all the time. You might think it's out of order, but in actual fact, exaggeration is just part and parcel of ordinary conversation, and so they're just replicating the kinds of things that we do naturally when we do that. Let's move on to number 6, rhyme. There is research showing people are more likely to believe something is true if it rhymes than if it does not rhyme, which feels absurd, but it's down to what linguists talk about as the processing fluency of language. How easy is language to swallow? If you speak using long words and long sentences, it's like giving someone a steak and asking them to swallow it. Whereas if you give them something pithy, like a rhyme, it's like asking them to just sip on some Prosecco. And we learn things through rhymes from the moment that we're toddlers. 1, 2, buckle my shoe. And so rhymes are signifiers of truth in our society, so they can often be used, therefore, to conceal fallacies. I don't know if any of you remember the O.J. Simpson case. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit, yeah? An apple a day keeps the doctor away. It sounds simple, it sounds true, but my God, we could save some healthcare spending if that really was up to it, wasn't it? So there we go. There are the 6 steps. And using these 6 steps, you can make the most absurd arguments sound plausible. Why? If you're into ancient rhetoric, because they work their way through ethos, pathos, logos. If you prefer thinking about persuasion in terms of neuroscience, they work because they speak to the instinctive, emotional, and logical brains. The reason we all used to learn rhetoric at school was because it was seen as a basic entry point to society. How could society be fair unless everyone had equal ability to articulate and express themselves? Without it, your legal systems, your political systems, your financial systems are not fair. And so it should be of intense concern to all of us that education in this has been narrowed to a very small and powerful elite. In Britain, there's one school that teaches rhetoric, and that is Eton. 19 of our last 50 prime ministers went to this school. So did our current mayor of London. So did our Archbishop of Canterbury. It is absolutely scandalous that when in the world we're dealing with such huge challenges, financial inequalities, the apocalyptic threat of climate change, religious persecution unmatched since the 1940s, that we should be restricting debate to such a narrow minority. Instead of teaching our children to sit down and shut up, we should be teaching them to stand up and speak out. So let's revive rhetoric. Let's really reinvigorate debate around the world, and let's really give every child on the planet to become a leader. What should we call this grand initiative? Well, here's an idea. How about democracy?